summer break, I read The Chairman's Lounge by Joe Aston, and that followed on from me reading the publicly available governance review into Qantas late last year. I'm sure, like many of you, you read these case studies and reflect on them and think about some of your own experiences. But what about the benefit of actually taking that into the boardroom and using some of these publicly available case studies as a learning for your own board? And when I think about some of the case studies that are available, there's actually some quite fertile ground. And of course, we can only operate what's publicly available. We'll never know the full story. But if we just take that publicly available information, there's actually some really interesting case studies. So one of the buckets we can look at is cyber breaches, and not only the handling of the cyber breach and what was released, but also the crisis management that followed. And of course, Optus and Medibank and other cases provide some ground in that regard to reflect on. There's also been some recent cases about the board's relationship with the CEO, and particularly in case of founder CEOs and or strong and high profile CEOs. So the board's relationship with the CEO is part of the Qantas review. There's also cases such as MinRes and WiseTech that also bring out some of those issues. There's often, unfortunately, quite a few workplace health and safety cases, and whilst it's a little bit old now, the Dreamworld tragedy and the coroner's report into that is a very sober read for directors, particularly looking through the causational factors leading up to those very tragic events. We've got some other cases too that are a little bit quirky. Should the board approve a CEO also having a paid board role? That's one of the cases that came through for the Australian National University with the Vice-Chancellor. And then following that, there was a question about what was in the board meeting minutes and the release of those minutes. There's also some more particular case studies. So for example, there's been an independent governance review into CBUS and the member benefit test and expenses, and quite a deal of publicly available information in that regard. So in each of those cases, I think there's three questions that boards could usefully take into a case study. And that is, what do we think the board handled well and not so well based on the available information? What did we learn? And thirdly and importantly, what would we do differently next time?